Hello everyone, it's Rafael Gutierrez. Welcome to our channel. I got something in my eyes today, so they're kind of watery right now. They should dry up. But I'm actually going to talk a little bit about having a plan and getting help. Now, last time I actually talked about having a plan and why it's important. I probably went too far. But before I do, as the semester is coming to an end, I'm actually planning the end of the year activities with my dojo. And I actually want to say that I am a really fortunate person. In my dojo, I swear I must get the best students in the area to come to my dojo. To mention a couple of them, just first names. So I do have one student who's at UC San Diego right now named Kevin. Amazing student, doing great things. He's studying and I don't get to see him or train with him as much as we used to. I have Leonardo, who again, a great student, one of the most mature people you'll meet, yet he still understands that he has to learn to be young. Julia, I don't see her too much because her and her mom moved to a bit farther. Again, great student, miss them. I actually tried not to mention all of them, but I have the Scout and Orion, who try so hard to do stuff, move up really quick, do the best they can all the time. Great students to have. Ileana, again, great student. She's been with me for just over a year and has actually been learning. I think she knows all the way to Pinan Yandan in a year. And can do probably one of the most amazing cat stances. Also, I don't want to forget Samantha. Samantha is one of the first students who came in when I first opened the dojo trying to do it commercially. And again, she's in special programs now special academic programs, winning awards for academia, and as a karateka is an amazing young woman. She actually does understand and manages to balance being mature when she needs to be and being a child when she wants to be. It's actually something hard that even some of us adults have a hard time. And of course, I don't want to forget Rami, who, even though he started back when he was almost 5, you can see that this child at 5 is able to train for an hour to 2 hours and maintain his attention. It's pretty amazing to me. And I always just think of what these kids are going to do when they in the future when they become adults. I do have two adults, but they're amazing. They're the parents of students, and so how could they not be, right? But the thing is, it's being at the end of the year, I really do start talking about this, and right now I have a little extra time, so I figure do a couple of videos. And like I said, what I'm actually going to talk about is once you have a plan, how to fix your plan. Now, I'm going to mention my parents, which I wrote a bit about on Off the Rails, and that's this. My parents actually came to the U.S. I will first say that I am extremely fortunate, not just because of my dojo, but because of my family. We came to the U.S. I should say I returned to the U.S. in '97, and in '97 there was a war in Nicaragua. My dad lost everything, came to the U.S. with 3 kids. Well, my mom and dad came to the U.S. with 3 kids and tried to set up everything here. Now, they had a dream, which was to return to Nicaragua once things settled down. The things really settled down once they retired, and so they both moved down once they retired. But their dream was, okay, we're going to move back to Nicaragua. But to move back to Nicaragua, we're going to need money because when we return, we're not going to have a clientele. My dad came and he started working. He actually worked anywhere between, I'd say about over 12 hours a day, Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday. He, sometimes worked till 5. Sometimes he took a day off on Sunday. But they actually did something with a plan. Their plan was to work, have something that made them money, so me, my brother, and sister would be able to pretty much have financial security until we were able to work ourselves. And so what they did is they did do this. They made a plan, and my parents both talked to people who were more successful. When they came to the US, they went to San Jose because I had an uncle, George, who was living there, and he said this is a good place to be for family. We can actually grow up. Now remember, this is 79, so before the dot-com boom. And we actually stayed with for a while, we stayed with my uncle. And so we, in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment, we had my family, my uncle's family, and one of my aunts. To tell you how we actually lived, my mom, dad, and younger brother, who was 1 year old at the time, slept in one room. My uncle George, his wife, and their son lived in another room. And me, my sister, and one of my aunts, Maria Lisette, were in another room. And I'm sorry, not another room, in the living room. And from there, my dad was actually working. We lived in San Jose, East San Jose, and my dad commuted up to Gilroy to work. Now, my dad ended up developing a clientele base and eventually started his own office. My mom actually ran the office when my dad worked with the people. And what ended up happening is this grew. Now, the interesting thing is my mom and dad, both of them would talk to people who were more successful and ask them how they did stuff. And it was really interesting because there were some people who in Nicaragua had more, who when they came to the US really weren't able to achieve what my parents were. There were some people who would sometimes had less, and they were able to achieve a lot more. And so they would go to the people who had achieved. And I remember one of their friends, apparently when they came from Nicaragua, they started cleaning houses to be able to live. And from there, they got more and more clients, and then they started hiring people to clean houses for them. And eventually they ran the business of house cleaning, and they had people who cleaned houses for them. They ended up succeeding. And that was one of the big things that ended up happening is my parents saw this and talked to them, found out what they did. Now, it was a different business, didn't matter. And that's actually one of the things that I find is a lot of successful people are willing to tell you how they did it. I remember a book I read, by the way, where a gentleman who wrote about how to become rich. And he said that out of every 10 people who pick up this book, only one of them was going to actually try what he did. And it's true. I mean, some of the stuff is not what you want to do. But the thing is, to get anywhere, you really need a plan. If you're in martial arts, you think about it. If you really want a black belt, what you need to do is you need to make a plan to get to there. This would include going to classes, meeting the right people, finding the right dojo, and moving up. Or if you just want the black belt, you can just go to a martial arts store, give them $5, and hey, you have a black belt. But usually that's not what people want. Now, I will tell you, when I first wanted to open up a dojo, I thought, wouldn't it be nice to make a living teaching karate? And at about that time period, I met a gentleman, Richard Pogue Sensei. He ran the Peaceful Warrior Martial Arts in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I will tell you, this guy, I only met him one time. And when I met him, I told him, you have a beautiful dojo. I would really, I'd love to have something like this one day. And he said something like, to the point where, well, let me tell you how I did it, and it'll probably work for you. And he ended up talking to me, and I wrote maybe 7 or 8 pages of notes on what I needed to do to have a successful martial arts studio. And I thanked him, and I still thank him. And when I went home, I realized that there were other stuff that were important to me, and so I couldn't really follow that plan. The plan was beautiful. It was ethical. It was everything you would want to do, and I could see how it would work. Unfortunately, Richard Pogue is not with us anymore, but is someone who influenced people who weren't even his students. And so it's one thing that I will also mention. Noah's, if I remember correctly, Noah Sensei is now actually in charge of the studio. So if you're on that area, you may want to check out a good dojo. You may want to actually look at them. So one of the things that I noticed is successful people do tend to give you advice on how to be successful. Now, when you're actually trying to do something, talk only to successful people. If you talk to people who are not successful, they'll tell you how nothing's going to work and it's going to fail. A lot of the people who are least successful will tell you, well, if the deck is stacked against you, you can't do it. You need $1 million to do anything you want. And Well, like one of the things I notice is a lot of the people who are successful didn't necessarily come out of the really rich families. They came out of middle class families, and they're willing to tell you what they did to get successful. Sometimes, though, it's you get the advice, you look at it, and you realize that what you thought you wanted isn't really what you wanted. And so that's one of the big things to actually look at. Like I said, I was actually really fortunate in that I met these people. And I actually will also talk a little bit about my little brother, who, when I was in my late 20s, he actually told me about the concept of compounding. And he said, look, you may not be thinking that you want to ever retire, but you never know what the future is going to bring. You can get he told me I could get in a car accident, and not be able to teach. And so I needed a backup plan. It sounded rational. So he told me how to save. And the other nice thing is I had parents who, and maybe it was the way I grew up too, I was always taught to save and never live beyond my means. Now, eventually things become important. I did save, but I also did trips like the Okinawa one and the Off the Rails. So the big thing is this. Yes, you need a plan, but you also need to talk to people to see how to make your plan function. If we use the martial arts scenario, if you are a white belt and you're trying to get to green, and I'll use white, green, brown, black. If you're a white belt trying to get to green, you can talk to green belts who were successful at becoming green belts, and they will tell you what you should do to get your green belt. It's going to include time. It's going to include training. Sometimes some people will tell you, if you really want to do it quick, offer something so you can take private lessons. And that way you can actually move to green belt. That's actually a plan. Talk to people and realize if this is really something you want to do, because let's be honest, if you have other things that are important, for instance, let's say you're a family man and you have kids and you're going to have to be doing a lot of stuff with your kids. Well, getting to green belt may actually take you a lot longer. You may have to modify your plans, and eventually you will get there if you really want it, but there are going to be things that are important for you. But let's assume you don't have anything. So you get to green belt. And then you can talk to people who are brown belts and find out how they did it. It's funny. Everyone will tell you, everyone knows. How do you get from green belt to brown? Train. A lot of the senseis will tell you what you need, the requirements you need for the next level. Also, a lot of them will ask you to show up to class a certain amount of time. If you can't do that, well, you either have to find out if something's more important. For some people, it's having the job that feeds them. Eating is a really expensive habit that most of us like to maintain. And so people can actually help you along the way. Don't be nervous about asking someone, because think about this. Think of the things that you've succeeded at in life. If someone asked you, how do I get to that part? Most people out there, most of you, I'm sure, will actually say, yes, this is how I did it. You want to move up to where I'm at. Here it is. Here's a plan. And the thing is, it doesn't really hurt us. You think about it. If I tell someone how to plan a trip to go to Okinawa, for instance, it doesn't hurt me. It's like, hey, I can teach you what I know. If someone wants to know, okay, how do I write books? I can tell you what I did and how to do it and see if it works for you. But remember, there are pathways you have to take, and there are people who are willing to help you. And so that's actually one of the big things that I would tell you is really important, is ask for help. Ask people how they did it, but do not expect help. I actually will tell you, as a professor, I will try to help my students as much as I can. But every so often I get a student who demands that I help them beyond what is expected. And usually what I do then is, I will fulfill my contractual obligation to every student, but when someone demands and tries to force me to go beyond what I would, I pull back. And I'm sure everyone else does this too. I will help people who want help, and I will help them, but when someone demands help, demands that I do something that I am not required to do, I pull away, and most people do. So I guess one of the big things is, to end this, I guess I would tell you is, have a plan, ask for help, know that you can change your plan, And when you ask help, realize that the person is doing you a favor. A person, if you ask for help, a person who says yes, I'll help you, is doing you the favor. So don't do what some people do, and it's like, well, I can't meet on your schedule. Can you cancel some of your stuff so you can meet on mine? Or I need you to cancel this so you can come with me. No. If they're helping you, realize that they're helping you, because just like I have the right to help you if I want to, if it's inconvenient to me, I have the right to say no. I hope you enjoy this video, and have a nice day. Goodbye.